So thanks for coming. As you know, my name is Matthew Anderson, and the talk tonight is about what is romantic love, how to find romantic love, and also I think maybe the most unique part of it, the most special part, is how to sustain it. And there are many things about romantic love that in our culture, um, there's a lot of very shallow trivializing of romantic love. And in my experience, romantic love is probably the most powerful human relationship that another person can experience in this life. Now, I know having children is important. We love our children, at least most of them do. And that's an important relationship. We love family, we love friends. But something happens to us when we fall in love, and it is, I guess we have the right phrase for it, it is a kind of a falling. When we fall in love with another person and they fall in love with us, something happens that has what I like to think of as divine qualities. It's so powerful that it can change a life. It can really transform a life. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you, just for a little fun, I think I know what's going to happen with it, is if you've ever, I want you to raise your hand in a second, if any of these three questions apply to you. If you've ever been in love, if you're in love now, or you want to be in love in the future, would you raise your hand? So, thanks. I would be really surprised if pretty much everybody didn't raise their hands, because instinctively, we know that that's what we want in this life. It's one of the things we all want, is to have the experience of falling in love. And that other person, of course, mutually falling in love with us. And so it is an enormously powerful relationship. And I like to think of it as when it happens to us, we have this experience of having what I call the eyes of love. And that means that I get to the place where if I'm in love with you and you're in love with me, that I can see, experience absolutely the best parts of you. All the best parts of you suddenly become available to me as I see you. And you have the same experience looking at me, interacting with me. And that's one of the reasons that we love being in love so much, because when we're around that person, something happens to us that's mysterious and I would say even miraculous. I keep wanting to use the word incredible, which in my experience is really not adequate to the experience. It's a powerful, life-changing kind of interaction and state of relationship that, and I said, it's the kind of relationship that between two people that cannot be surpassed. We can have, there's only one other kind of relationship that we can have in life, in my opinion, that's that powerful or more powerful than that, and that's our relationship with God. But I'm convinced that when we are fully in love with another person and they are fully in love with us, that it becomes a divine experience. And we have the eyes, we look at another person with these eyes, but when we fall in love, something transforms that. And we really do see what's wonderful, beautiful, and incredible about them. And contrary even to the opinion of some professionals, which really periodically annoys me, because people will talk about it like infatuation or like almost like you're drunk. It's really not like that. I think what we see in our partner when we fall in love with that person is real. It is truly real. And if we trust that, we can then nurture that in them and allow them to nurture it in us. I don't know of anything in life that's going to change your life more than that if you surrender to that, if you believe that, if you hold on to that idea. Now, having said that, how do you find love? Now, this part is really interesting to me because, honestly, it is my experience, but I asked somebody earlier today how old he thought I was, and he said he thought I was in my 50s, so I gave him a lot of money, but I've been doing this since 1971 or 2, and I've worked with a lot of couples over that time, and a lot of people. One of the first things I want to know when couples come to work with me is, are you guys in love? Have you ever been in love? Because if you've ever been, we can recreate, we can reconnect with that if we do the right kind of work. And so, if we want to find love, what I want to tell you now is not the usual way that we are taught to find love in our culture. If you really want to find love, and I like this example because it really kind of works. I don't know how many of you have heard about a bird of paradise in New Guinea. They have a number of different kinds of birds of paradise, and they have incredible colors and feathers. But there's one kind that knows exactly how to find the love of his life. And he does it in the way that I'm going to recommend to you. And that is, he doesn't go out to bird bars and look for other chicks. He doesn't do that. He doesn't. He doesn't go on to a site where they got all the good-looking birds and just, you swipe left, swipe right and all of that. He doesn't look for love like you're buying a car, which is a lot of people are taught to do these days. You go online and say, does it have this one, does it have this one, does it have this one? Where is that person? I got to go out. And I had a woman work with me years ago. She was a really attractive woman. She had been divorced about 8 or 9 years, and she was going out to places. And she said to me one time, she said, I can't find anybody. And I said, why? She says, there are no good men in South Florida. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, yeah, last weekend I went out to this singles dating event. It was a whole bunch of singles people, and there were no good men there. I said, tell me, how long were you there? Because I knew something was up. She said, about 20 minutes. I said, how many people were there? She said, 60. I said, how many were men? She said, half. I said, in 20 minutes, you went through 30 men and figured out there were no good men there? And she started to laugh. And I said, I don't think you're really open to the possibility. Now, this bird of paradise that I want you to know about is called a bower bird, B-O-W-E-R. And what this bird does, the male, is he's out in the jungle. He finds a little plot of land, probably about as big as the corner of this room. It's jungle. It's all this kind of stuff all over the floor of it. And he decorates it. He goes meticulously through every part of that. He moves twigs out. He builds a little kind of container area for it. And he even brings in bits of colored flowers and other things to make it beautiful. It's incredible. You can watch this on YouTube if you want to. When it's all ready, he waits. And the female comes and looks at this beautiful place, and she decides, that's the one for me. He didn't have to leave home to find her. Now, that's really, really, really important, because that's how I found mine too. I didn't leave home. But what happens is, about 750 years ago or so, in the 13th century, the most powerful and most revered spiritual poet, his name was Jalaluddin Rumi. You probably already know him. It's R-U-M-I. He wrote something about finding love. He said, you don't have to seek for love. What you have to do is to remove your inner barriers to receiving it. That's what this bird is doing. He's cleaning out all the barriers so that this female bird can show up and say, that's mine. That's mine. So It's not always an easy thing to get people to believe this, but what we need to do if we really want to find the love of our lives is not go online. I'm not saying dating services are terrible. I'm just saying you don't have to do that if you open the space in here. And if that space is not open, Mr. or Miss Right can walk right up to you and right by, and you won't even notice it because the space has not been, the nest has not been made in your heart. I was going to do a talk called You're Looking for Love with All the Wrong Organs. Now, if you're old enough, you remember looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, most of us look for love generally with our head or our genitals. But the heart is the place that you should go to if you want to find love. The heart. And you need to open your heart as best as possible to receive it, like the bowerbird is doing. He cleared out a space for her to come. Now, if that space is filled up with, I don't know how much love I want, I don't know how much I can tolerate, there's a problem. And so Rumi said this. You could read a self-help book last week and it wouldn't be better advice than what Rumi gave us 700 years ago. He was a Sufi poet. When I first read that, I remember having such an amazing experience because it just felt so right to me. First, it is the heart that is the organ from which, with which we look for love. And we have to attend to opening it. Now, I call it a mantra. It's sort of a cross between a mantra and a prayer. And it actually only lasts 32 seconds. I'll see if I can say it to you correctly. I open my heart completely to all the love that wants to come to me. I let go of all my resistance to receiving that love. And I surrender to my full blossoming in all the years and days I have left to live. Now I put that third part in there because if we allow love into our lives fully and completely, we're going to blossom as an individual. We're going to blossom as a person. We need love to blossom. But that only takes 32 seconds to say that. And often I listen to that. I've recorded it on my phone, and I listen to it in the mornings. Even though I've already found the love of my life, I want all the rest of the love to keep coming to me, and especially in this relationship. Because everybody's heart has a kind of a mixed feeling about it. You know, we go like this, and then we do a little bit of that. We go like this, we do a little bit of that. Sometimes we go like this if it becomes too much, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So, one of the things that I'll be happy to do for you after this talk is over, if you want it, and some of you may have already had it, I've sent it to you. I'll send you that little meditation. I like to listen to it 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row because it only takes 32 seconds. So it's not like I'm asking you to do a 20-minute meditation, but what it does is establishes this feeling in your heart to open up to all the love that wants to come to you. Now that's based on the belief, on the faith that it always wants to come to us. There's so much love that wants to come to us that if we could open completely all at once, we'd be completely overwhelmed. And I think we kind of instinctively know that, and sometimes we go like this when love wants to show up. So I want to move into the last piece of this, but I want to tell you a quick story that's relevant to this. Almost 40 years ago, I guess it was 40 years ago, it was 1981, I was living in California, and I had a practice there, and I got a phone call one day, and it was a woman on the phone, and she had a lovely, what felt like to me a strong voice. And she said, "Hi, is this Dr. Anderson? I heard that you help people with relationships, finding relationships. is that true? And I said, yes, it is. And she said, I want to make an appointment. So she made an appointment for next week. And next week came, there was a knock on the door. And I opened the door, and and what I thought in my head, I'm going to give it to you the G-rated version. What I said out loud was, hi, welcome, come in. But in my head, as soon as I saw her, I thought, holy crap, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. She was 3 feet 8 inches tall. She was, what I learned very quickly, because she told me, is that she was a little person. And her name was Bobby. And so she came in, she sat down on my couch, and I said, Bobby, listen, you probably figured this out, but I've never had any experience in my life working with someone who has your life experience. I am really happy to work with you, but you're going to have to educate me about what it's like to be you. Which, of course, she was okay. She expected that. She was laughing when I said that. But I was like, what am I going to do? I'm trying to stay G-rated about this part because my mind is like, the experience I was having at the moment, and it's rare for me not to know what to say. It is rare. And so I had to start with a confession, which I thought was a good idea. So she was almost 40. She had a child who was also a little person. And Bobby wanted to find someone to love her and someone that she loved. So we started working on it. Now, I was not as articulate then about this subject as I am now, but I still had that attitude of opening the heart. So about a year later, she got married to a guy who loved her. It was just so obvious how much he loved her. It just filled my heart to see them together. And he was 6 feet 3 inches tall. I didn't make this up. I swear I didn't make it up. I love this story. I tell it to people sometimes just because I love the story. It's got nothing to do with what else is going on. But and what I got out of it, besides learning about what Bobby's life was about, they also had a child later. And there's a 50-50 chance when a little person in a regular, well, he was bigger than regular size, but what we would call normal size, have a child, they have a 50-50 chance. A little person came. So the lesson for me, and I hope just in listening to me talk about it, it'll have an impact on you. And that is, the lesson from me, like from God, it says to me, Matthew, don't you ever imagine that there is not someone for every person who really wants that kind of love. And I am convinced that there is that kind of love available to every single person who is willing to open their heart to it. I'm as convinced as I am aware that you're sitting here in the chair. I know this happened to me 2 times in my life. And I'm on number 2 now. And that one happened because I opened my life, my heart. A number of years ago, I was sitting in my office and I said, send me the one. I will give her absolutely everything that's in my heart. And she showed up. Not like in 5 minutes, but she showed up. I had to kind of get ready. So, what I want to talk about now is once you have that love, you open your heart to it, and that person shows up and you make that kind of connection. Once you have that love, how do you sustain it for a lifetime? Now, there's a major myth, it's a toxic myth in my opinion, that if we truly fall in love with another person, they fall in love with us, and we get married and we live with that person for a while, it kind of goes downhill. It kind of goes downhill and then disappears. Now, here's the thing. imagine that you won the lottery. I'm talking about the financial lottery. You could win $1 million, you could win 100 million, whatever it is. The statistics are that 70% of people who win the lottery within 5 years have either lost or spent every single penny. All of it is gone in 5 years for 70% of those people. Now, imagine that if you fall in love with someone and they fall in love with you, it's like winning the love lottery. One day you're walking around, you don't have an experience of that kind of love, just like somebody's walking around, their income is maybe $50, $60, $70,000. They buy a ticket, and the next day they're worth $100 million. The reason they can't hold on to it is, number one, it came to them for free. They didn't do anything except pay $2 for a ticket, and it's more money than they could ever imagine. They don't have a place to put it in their lives. I've had clients over the years. I had one a few years ago who walked in my office and he said, Matthew, I just want to let you know I've been working on this for like 30 years. I'm now worth $100 million. Well, he wasn't going to lose it because he had worked day after day after day after day and planned, and he knew what to do with it. It didn't happen in one day. But when we win the lottery, financial lottery, all of a sudden we have something that's so large and overwhelming. Most of us don't know what to do with it. I've said to a few clients over the years, but so far it hasn't happened. I say, if you win the lottery, I want you to do one thing. And they say, what? And I say, I want you to make a commitment. For 1 year, you're going to come to see me 5 days a week, so that we can talk about how you don't throw it away and destroy your life with that kind of overwhelming income that's so sudden. Now, imagine if I just told you a few minutes ago that I think that falling in love is the most powerful human relationship that you can have in your life. And it happens like that, usually when we fall in love, usually. And all of a sudden, it's like the love lottery. And within 7 years, 50% of people who fall in love and get married get divorced. 50%. The other 50% who stay married, as you know, if you go out to any restaurant in this town or in the area and sit and watch other people who are couples sitting together, they're not necessarily doing so good themselves. What's the reason? The reason is they haven't opened their hearts big enough to learn how to tolerate that kind of good fortune, blessing, life-changing miracle that's blowing their heart into a wonderful experience. And so what we do when we get that is we go like this and we go like that, and this begins to fade. And in months, for many people, that sense of ecstatic love that they had in the beginning, it starts to disappear, and most people think, okay, that's normal. It might be normal in the sense that it happens to a lot of people, but it is not necessary. And that's what I want to tell you about now. And I'm going to go through kind of quickly what I consider to be 6 essential ingredients in making that ecstasy last. Now, there are others, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I picked out, I think, the 6 that are the most essential. And the first one is what I wanted to tell you about, is you have to learn how, and I know this may sound strange, you need to learn how to tolerate being loved. Tolerate being loved. Now, I'll just give you one example, and I don't want anybody to raise their hand and say it applies to you, and I don't want anybody to point to their partner and say that that applies to you either, okay? Now, I'm not trying to get more work tonight. So, and that is, if you can't take a compliment very easily, how are you going to tolerate winning the love lottery? If somebody can't say to you, Ron, I think you're a really great guy, and Ron deflects that. He changes the subject, he laughs, he makes a joke, whatever. How is he going to tolerate somebody saying, I love you more than any other person on the planet, I want to spend my life with you, I don't ever want to be apart from you? That's what's happened when you fall in love. And so there's some part of us, usually caused and affected by childhood experiences, sometimes even trauma affects that. But it shapes our ability to open our hearts and our arms to being loved. And that's why Rumi said 700 years ago, what you need to do is get past, let go of your resistance to receiving love. So the first thing we need to do when we fall in love with someone is start saying to ourselves, I need to learn how to tolerate this, to be with it. I can watch it when people hug each other. You know, the average amount of hugs, average length of a hug is only about, I would say, about 2 seconds. But let's say it was 5 seconds. So in 9 minutes, and there's a reason I'm saying 9 minutes, in 9 minutes, that's worth 108 hugs. I did the math. There's 108 5-second bits in 9 minutes. We start every single day of our lives together with 9 minutes of hugging. The alarm goes off at 5:30 usually, and first thing we do is roll over and put our arms around each other. That starts the day with 108 hugs. Now, Virginia Satir said years ago, she was a grandmother of family therapy. She said you need 8 hugs a day to survive and 12 to thrive. Well, if you think of it, she's saying you need 40 seconds of hugging a day and 60 seconds to thrive. Now, most people I know are touch deprived, they're hug deprived. And when I just heard this maybe 30 years ago, I started counting. I thought, I don't get that many. I'm not giving that many. And I said, I'm going to start taking hugs from anybody who wants to give me one. Anybody who wants to give me a hug, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to hold back. I don't care how you look or how you smell. I'm going to take it. Honey, you smell good all the time. That's good. Number 2, essential, is I really wish I wasn't doing a G-rated one, but because on this one, is grow up. In the last 70 years, relationships and what it takes to sustain a relationship in America has changed from gender roles, like if you're a man, you did certain things, you're a woman, did another, to partnership, equal partnerships. And so it takes 2 adults to create a survivable, healthy love relationship that lasts. 2 adults. And as you know, they didn't show up tonight, the people who are not adults, but all the adults showed up tonight. But there are people out there, some of them are trying to sustain love when they act like a 13-year-old or a 5-year-old some of the time. It takes 2 adults, and so we have to really work at growing up. Now, I could go on about that when I'm not, because I don't want to run out of time. The third one is that we need to see the relationship and our partner as precious. Now, think about it for a moment. What do you do with something that you think is precious? What do you do with it? You take good care of it, because that word means to you it's precious. And I'm doing my hands like this because that's what we do with precious things. We hold them. We don't deal with them like this. We hold them as precious. The relationship has to be held as precious, and that person who is our partner also needs to be held as precious. And when we start the day with that sense of preciousness, and we remind ourselves about it throughout the day, whatever goes on with us, if we're being adult and something happens that's not okay, and it happens in every relationship, you can't avoid that. We remember, this is a precious person, this relationship is precious to me. I might be very upset, but I'm still going to hold it as precious as I interact, as I bring, hopefully, the best part of me to that relationship. Number 4 is I put down both gratitude and affirmation because they really kind of go together. There's so much research been done the past 25 years about the effects of gratitude. I could spend the whole day telling you about it, but I'm not going to. I grew up in a family that affirmation pretty much did not happen. I don't even remember a time when either parent, and they're both in heaven now, and God bless you, but neither one of them ever said to me, son, I'm really proud of you. I mean, just something simple like that. And I'm sure you all guys said that, all of you say that to your children who have them. I had to learn how to be affirming and show gratitude. I had to learn it over the years. And I thought I was doing pretty good until a number of years ago. Sonny and I love to do things together, including ordinary things like go to the grocery store. And I've probably told some of you this story, but we go to the grocery store, we park in front of it. And just as we got out of the car, I realized that just as we pulled up and I'm getting out, she said to me two different things that were positive about me. She gave me two affirmations. And I remember it vividly. I got out of the car, I'm walking around, and I thought, I'm going to count. When we go in the grocery store, I'm going to count. So we go in there for about a half an hour, and we come back, we get in the car, and I said to her, honey, I know this might sound weird to you, but do you know in the last 30 minutes you have said 10 positive things to me about me? 10. She said, you've been counting? I said, yeah, I was counting. And I loved every minute of it. It was incredible. And I thought, I'm going to learn how to live up to that. I'm going to make her my standard for affirmation and gratitude because she was really good at it. And I'm making progress. I am way better than I used to be. And it starts in the morning and it goes all day long. And I'm telling you, some people around us think it's a little bit sappy. And I don't care anymore because it just makes me think, okay, well, gratitude is so important. And if I tell her or you or anybody here what I appreciate about you, what I'm thankful for, you appreciate it. But what happens to me is I share it with you. I feel it again. And it changes your self-esteem. It changes your blood pressure. It helps your immune system. It has all kinds of wonderful effects. It's amazing what gratitude and affirmation do. So I've been practicing it. Number 5 is what I like to call radical intimacy. And I wish I had about 3 hours to talk about this one. Radical intimacy means trusting your partner enough to build a relationship in which you can fully open your heart. The active word these days is vulnerability, where you cannot defend yourself. You can open your heart to that person in a way that deeply touches them, but is also deeply healing to you. We can't all go to therapists. Not everybody on this planet is ever going to have a therapist to sit and tell some of their pain they're suffering to. But when there's radical intimacy, it means opening up, fully trusting that what you share with that person is going to be received. And you see what I'm doing with my hands in this way. And they're going to respond to you mutually at the same kind of level over time. And so it becomes a give and a take, a flow that begins to take a relationship that started like this and becomes like that. Now, you all know that if you hold your hands like this and the weight is placed upon your hands, it breaks through easily. But when you put them together, you put your fingers together, it's the same hands, but they have a different relationship. You can hold 10, 20 times the weight. And so what happens in life is when you have that kind of radical intimacy with your partner on a regular basis, it deepens, it gets stronger. Then life brings all that crap that it brings to all of us, and you have something that's going to hold yourselves together and deal with it in a way you could not before. So for me, it's a miracle that happens in radical intimacy. It's an incredible experience. And it's something that builds. And as it builds, you will have the best sex you have ever had in your whole life. That's all I'm going to say, honey. It turns our emotional intimacy when two people are together and attracted to each other, they have sexual attraction. They also have emotional attraction. If they don't have the emotional connection, the phrase that I've come up with over the years, and I don't know if it originated with me, but I like to think it does, is I call it mutual masturbation. I use your body to get off, you use my body to get off, and as long as it's consensual, there's nothing really wrong with it. But when you bring love and intimacy into that, there's an explosion that happens in your heart and every other part of your body that's absolutely indescribable. And it can last over and over and over and over and over again. You don't get tired of it because it's so fantastic. Now, the last thing I want to say about this is a couple of weeks ago, my sister and brother-in-law celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And we were there. One reason is because she's my sister. Another reason is I married them in 1971. And so it was 50 years later, and I give a little talk, and they renewed their vows. And one of the things that I really love about my sister and brother-in-law is that they are devoutly spiritual people. And I'm saying it that way because I'm not connecting it to any particular spiritual system. There are lots of ways to be spiritual in this world, but if you hold your relationship in a context of a meaningful and mutual spirituality, it becomes over time as significant and as powerful as any of the other things that I've said. And in this day and age, it's not always easy to talk about that because some people it's like, yeah, like that. And other people it's like, yeah, I got one. I'm not trying to sell a particular type. What I'm saying is falling in love to me is a miracle and it has divine energy in it. And when we go that way, we are finding out what it means, that phrase that many religions will say that God is love. When you really surrender yourself to love, you're having a divine experience. And so, one of the things I hope you leave here tonight with is an opening in your heart that maybe I can have more of this. If you do any one of the things I mentioned tonight, any one, with some energy, it's going to move your loving relationship to a better level. Any one of them. What I want you to do, hopefully, is leave with a sense of hope and not, oh, I've been missing out on something. What's wrong with me? Don't do that to yourself. Go away with, hey, there's something we can add, that I can add to our relationship, to my relationship with someone I love, and make it to another level. And all of this would have been worth it because I'm of the opinion that every time two people love each other, it has an effect on all the rest of us on this planet. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening to me. God bless you all.